If, for example, you were to hire people, and what would you be looking for in terms of number one? Let's start with the personality and let's go on to obviously professionalism in terms of certifications as well.
Because I don't think a lot of people think about personality as being something that they should know or something that they should apply to their interviews. I really look for people who I connect with, who have similar values and similar ethics to me. So if I had to say the three things, I would definitely say high ethics and values, being super initiative. So like taking the initiative to do your homework, know what you want to be, where you want to go, and knowing about security. And then probably the third thing is the willingness to learn and get those certs, because there are plenty of certs that are available and that some of them are even free. You just need to be able to make sure that you are willing to put in the work.
Cyber heroes and cyber fans, welcome to another episode. As you know, I'm your boy, Mr. Fingers. Well, that's cybersecurity guy. And today we absolutely have another one. Now, today's guest is absolutely amazing. She's also a friend of mine, but not forgetting, she's my mentor as well. Yes, you heard that right. She's actually my mentor. With over 20 years in the IT industry and nearly a decade in information security. Now, this particular individual has established herself as a formidable force in the cybersecurity landscape as the Chief Information Security Officer at her company currently right now. And also, she's not just a leader, she's a mentor, a visionary, and a champion for cybersecurity excellence. She's also recognized among the top cyber news top 40 under 40, top 50 in cyber South Africa, and top 100 women in tech South Africa. Now, this particular individual's impact goes far beyond technical expertise. Her dedication to mentorship and community building has earned her the nomination for the Wired for Women Mentorship Award, solidifying her reputation as a trailblazer who uplifts and empowers others. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome
Mr.
Nadia.
Fingers, I am
Nadia,
going to get you to write all my bios from now onwards. What an introduction. Thank you so much for having me. PK, you are a special part of my life, and I really appreciate you having me on your show. You are such a great mentor to others, to kids. There's plenty of other kids that come to me and be like, hey, do you know Mr. Fingers? And I'm like, actually, I do. So it's really great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming into the show. I mean, you have a very incredible bio, and most people don't know this, that you've been in the industry for sure. Guys, you know, she looks very young because she takes good care of herself. This industry is very stressful. Let's talk about that, first of all. You know, it's a very stressful industry, but we'll get to that. But let's talk about how was the cybersecurity landscape when you were starting out back then? Because cybersecurity has changed from then to now.
Going into tech, firstly, over, I think it's 21, going into 22 years now, also looked very different, right? People didn't work from home. You kind of left your computer, you took it with you, but you weren't really on, right? And I think if you fast forward to today, and the cybersecurity landscape has changed so much because people are not just working from home, but they're also working from all different parts of the world. They're working on their phones, their mobiles, they're connecting everywhere. So you're never really off. You're always on. And that's one of the biggest challenges I find compared to when I went into security about almost 10 years ago is, you know, the threats were a lot less. The landscape was a lot smaller, and it's just exponentially grown with every couple of months even. The first couple of years were that steady kind of incline and increase, and now it's just booming all the time consistently, and it's hard to keep up.
Yeah. I mean, comparing cybersecurity back then to now, it's quite different. And I think I get this question a lot, and I've seen people ask me this question a lot, and I've always tried to answer it the best way that I can. But I'm going to ask you, how different do you think it is to get into cybersecurity comparing to back then when you were starting to now?
Yeah, for
Because I
sure.
feel like now it's
So I think back then
oversaturated.
it wasn't really well known. I mean, I could never really explain to people what cybersecurity or information security or what we called information assurance back then, right? It wasn't something well known. It was difficult to explain. So I always just told people I was really in IT, right? And I think a lot of us fell into it, BK, to be honest. We were in IT or we were in technical roles and they needed someone to kind of head up cyber or head up security or go into the security space. And it was pretty much that, parallel kind of move. Now, I think we've made it a lot harder because we're expecting people to come in with the experience, with the knowledge, with the certifications already. And I think we've made it really exclusive, to be honest. And I don't think the exclusivity is needed, to be honest. I think we need to pave a way. And I'm trying to work really hard at that. And I think you are as well, right? With all your little videos showing how people can get into cyber and stuff, is we need to say, if you need someone with experience, give them a chance, because you can't gain experience without being in a job or in a position to get that. Certifications are also not easy to get. They're not cheap as well. And it varies from individual to individual because there's so many parts you can take now in cybersecurity compared to what it was 10 years ago. Or even longer. So there's really, no need to push people, and it's not necessarily any longer to be technical. You don't need to be a technical IT person to be able to get into cyber. You don't. So we need to do away with a lot of myths around cyber, how to get into cyber, what roles there are, what you need to know, how you need to think or act or anything like that. I think it's really about initiative and drive and passion, right? I find a lot of people succeed in security because of passion. If you are willing to take the initiative, learn, skill up, do the things necessary, you can definitely find a path.
And that's so true. If you put your heart and your mind into something, you can definitely do it. Especially if you write the goal down and you see it in your head and you want to work for it. Because I feel like a lot of us see the end goal of what the other person has, and then we don't want to put in the work. I'm like, I want to go into cybersecurity. When you see the work that has to be put behind it, we're like,
exactly. And that's a misconception also, is that any career takes work. Any career takes drive, right? And it might not be for you. It's like you say, it's a really high pressure environment. It's a really stressful environment. You always have to be on your A game all the time. When you have an off day is when things happen, where you may miss something that's really pivotal, that's really important. And that's the scary part, is that a lot of us, we made a joke. I was sitting with a couple of CISO friends not too long ago, and I made a joke and I said, guys, I think I'm really going to move careers soon. I don't know if I could do this for the next 20 years. And they all started laughing and they said, Nats, let's be honest. Will we survive without the cortisol and the adrenaline rush that we get every day doing this job? And I said, you know what? Probably not. We're going to die really young of heart attacks and stuff like that, because we're so used to this. We're so used to the push and the pull and the drive. But I think with anything, PK, any career, like I said, it really, really takes a lot of drive. It takes passion. It takes work. I mean, that is really important. You cannot stop working towards it, especially because cybersecurity and technology is it's ever changing. It's evolving. The threats are never the same. So you've always got to be on your A game. You know what I mean? So you've got to put in the work every single day, 24/7. There's something new.
That's so true. If today, for example, you were 18 years old and you were starting
I
out,
think
what would you do differently?
I would definitely study more, right? So, fun story. I have a degree in marketing, which a lot of people laugh at me about. And it's funny because a lot of us have started out in different careers or studying something different, right? But I also think that's okay. I was really hard on 18-year-old me, where I felt like there had to be this perfectionism, and I have to get into a career and do it for the next 40, 50 years of my life, right? And that's actually not true. I wish I had told myself, go and try more things, go and do more, be different, experience different things. And maybe when you find something you really connect to, do it. I didn't realize the first 10 years of being in IT, firstly, I was a developer, giving my age away, but I worked on Lotus Notes and Lotus Domino, which is ages, like decades old. And it was big before even Office 365 came in. And I was part of the teams that moved over big companies from Lotus Domino to Office 365, right? Like years ago. And I hated it. PK, I hated all of it. I hated being a developer. I hated being, like some days I thought to myself, what am I doing? But I stuck with it because I think it was drilled into us that once you choose a career, you stick with it. And if I didn't have to put my hand up when it came to security, and really I found my place, I found my people, I just found the thing I love doing. Short from going to China to hug pandas and be a panda nanny, I think this is the career where I was supposed to be. And that's the advice I really give my 18-year-old self. And I give all my mentees who are young and studying and all of that it's okay to fail. It's okay to not be good at every single thing you do. And it's okay to hate things, but at least you tried. And then you move on, do something else. But it's really imperative that you do things that make you happy, because you're going to be doing them for majority of your day and most of your life.
And actually, one thing I've learned from you from that, with actually being under your leadership, is that it's okay to make mistakes, but they're not mistakes. They're just lessons, And if you're doing a particular career, you're not there just for the sake of being there. You are there to pick up a certain skill there because you might need it for somewhere else. And in your cybersecurity, whatever career you're going to go into in cybersecurity, you are going to need it. And that's going to make you stand out.
Every failure you have is a lesson learned. It's something that you'd say, I'm not going to do again. Even in cyber, there's things we fail at continuously, right? And hopefully it's failing forward. And I really love that term, failing forward, because you know what not to do next time. You know what you should be doing better, and you learn along the way. So totally, and I know that's really a lesson I drive all the time. It's hard for us to failure, isn't it? It's really hard, BK.
It's true. That's so absolutely true. I think most of us don't know the difference. There's something that you said last time and a while back, and I was like, I'm so keen on people hearing this because you broke it down so well, and I want you to break it down so well, right? What is the difference between cybersecurity and information security? Because a lot of people have a misconception that thinking that it's one thing.
Bless you for that. I think people, there's still quite a few people who argue with me on this point, but I'm really firm on the fact that it is two separate things, right? Information security and people who sit in information security really look at everything related to the business as being a risk. So whether it sits on your network or it doesn't. So if it's actual physical security, so someone entering your premises, someone entering your different departments within your building, someone entering your server room, that is all physical security. That falls under the realm of information security. It's what you print. And people take that really important financial document or intellectual property, they print it out of the printer, put it on their desk, leave it there, walk away. And then what? Human resources. It's the files that they have of people. It's the data. It's all your intellectual property within your business. It's making sure all of that is secure. And that's where information security really plays a role, is that you think about all these different layers that make up your entire business and what could bring you down, Where cybersecurity really focuses on what is happening on your network. So, from an infrastructure point of view, the computers you connect to it, the mobile devices, what information is being transferred via your network. All of those things are really in the cybersecurity realm. And I always say cybersecurity is a smaller part of the bigger picture, which is information security. So I hope I broke it down like I usually do.
So well. And you broke it down the way I thought you would. So I appreciate that. You heard that, ladies and gentlemen, the difference between cybersecurity and information security, because she broke it down so well. So you have to know the difference
That's
before
true.
you even apply for jobs, because there's two different things that you need to understand with that. But in terms of your job, do you mind taking us through your day-to-day job? Like, what is that you do and what is your title? Because I know your day-to-day changes depending on the tasks that you have to do, managing a team and all that. But let me not spoil it for people.
I think as a CISO, what we call a CISO, or someone at the head of security, pretty much in your environment, is really a strategic and an operational role. Well, for me, it's both. And most of the time, it's a very strategic role where we would sit on the board, we would report to the board as well as the exco on what the business and cyber risks are within the business. For me, it's very much working in a smaller company rather than a big company. I get very hands-on, I get very technical. So mine is both strategic and operational. My day-to-day is pretty much making sure that every time we have a risk, is we assess that risk and we make sure we try and either put in whatever risk treatment we need to be able to get to a point where we lower our risk and our business is sitting in a good space. That risk looks different in every industry, every business, across the board. So no one CISO will be doing exactly the same thing, and their strategy will be very different. And that's also something part of the strategic role is building up that strategy over a 3 to 5 year period to make sure that you put in place the things you need to be able to minimize your risk. But essentially, it's really a strategic role to make sure that the business is catered for if and when a cyber incident happens, which we know happens all the time, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. But it's really strategically also putting into place that you have disaster recovery as well as business continuity in place so that you know that tomorrow when something happens, your business is able to still move on and carry on.
If, for example, you were to hire people, and what would you be looking for in terms of, number one, let's start with the personality and let's go on to obviously professionalism in terms of certifications as well. But from your point of view, what is the top 3 things that you would look for?
And I can appreciate that because I don't think a lot of people think about personality as being something that they should know or something that they should apply to their interviews. I really look for people who I connect with, who have similar values and similar ethics to me, because being in security, your ethics has to be really high. And also, I need you driven. I need you passionate. I need you innovative and taking initiative. So one of the really important things for me is having good values that you are able to implement, but take initiative, because someone always can't be standing behind you to say, do this, do this, do this, or teaching them. I can't be standing there teaching them all the basics about security. I would want you to have already gone through that and said, okay, I know this is what I know. This is where my gaps are. And this is where I'm going to go forward. And then from a certification or qualification point of view, BK, believe it or not, I'm not that strict on. I am someone who you can gain certifications when you're working as well, right? But it's really about, and I spoke to one of our interns the other day, right? And he was super, super driven. And I didn't realize that he was even coming into our team until later. And then I had to do an interview with him. And he had, I think he had one certification. I can't even remember what it was. But it was really his passion that came through. The fact that he knew so much about security and he's never worked in the environment really set off quite a lot of like warm feelings for me, right? And that's what I look for. So if I had to say, really the 3 things, I would definitely say high ethics and values, being super, super initiative. So like taking the initiative to do your homework, know what you want to be, where you want to go, and knowing about security. And then probably the third thing is the willingness to learn and get those certs, because there are plenty of certs that are available and that some of them are even free. You just need to be able to make sure that you are willing to put in the work.
Beautiful. Excellent. And that is actually great, because one of your top 3 that you mentioned a lot is you have to be able to gel with the magic. Simple. Gel with the person who's interviewing you. And which is something I always emphasize as well, is that when you get there, Don't try to pretend to be somebody that you're not. Be you and be as honest as you can. If you don't know something, just say, I don't know it, I don't understand it, but this is what I've done. And don't think that you need to know everything. It's okay that if you don't know a couple of things.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it's so easy to cyber stalk people these days, right? Cyber stalk away. I always say, and this is personal. This is not something that would work for everybody, right? But I always take a personal interest in people. I always find out, what do you do? What is your passions? What is your home life? Who are you? Who are you as a person? And when we have our mentorship sessions as well, we laugh and we joke and we talk about our families. We talk about other stuff. You never know who you're going to connect with and on what level, but you need to be willing to share. So if someone asks you, and I always love this question because no interview I've ever been part of, either as the interviewer or the interviewee, when someone doesn't ask you, tell me about BK. I hate when people only just go into their work life. Like, I studied this and I did this. And I'm like, no, tell me about you. Tell me who's BK. Tell me that, I'm doing this in my spare time. This is my passion. This is what I do. I always start off saying, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, and I'm a mom, because those are three really important roles in my life. And I'd like someone to take that as saying, okay, this is Nadia, because I'm not just the CISO. I'm also a daughter, a wife, and a mother.
Sure. I love what you said. And let's get back to something quite interesting, which I want to move and shift a bit to something quite interesting, which is your aha moment, or that moment where you said, this is really bad. But have you had a moment where you thought, this is really bad? This is really, really bad.
I had a few. I've had a few. I'm going to tell you about one that was really bad because it affected a lot of people, and people lost their jobs because it was one of those situations where an entire division of a company that I worked for had to close down. And it was heartbreaking, and I get very emotional about it. But it was pretty much a risk we had, where we had gone into a business. And I won't give you the details because it's obviously, not something I can disclose. But the broad picture is we had encountered a risk of a legacy system and this was, sure, if I have to think back to the year, it was probably about 2015, 2016. So we're talking 10 years ago almost. I was, when I just started going into security. And we had gone into this business and they were still running a 95 Windows machine in 2016. And yeah, that's the reaction I had. And they were pretty much running a manufacturing plant off of this. And the system was hard-coded. It was a legacy system. It was something that we really needed to prioritize in order for the business unit to carry on functioning. And essentially, we were backing up the server that had this information. We were pretty much backing it up onto a NAS device at the site. And we knew that that couldn't work. It needed to be backed up to our data center. And our plans pretty much failed somewhere in between, and it wasn't being backed up. And we lost months worth of data because the system eventually collapsed. And in the time we were taking to kind of get budget, and we know people always say this, there's no budget in security, is one of those situations where we needed the budget to rewrite the system. And we were still waiting for approval for that to happen. And they said to us, just give us some time. And months went along, and the system crashed, and we lost months worth of data because the server ended up being backed up on itself. 211 people lost their jobs because of that. And a lot of those people were blue collar workers that were supporting their families. And it really was a situation where you sit back and you think to yourself, I can't believe that just happened. And it was one of the pivotal moments of my career where I really sat back and I was like, what could we have done differently? What do we learn from this experience? Because we can't go back now and change it. it's pretty much done. It happened, and I can tell you now, my risk awareness is way higher. I have a cover your ass policy now, where I literally I literally say to people, put it in writing. If you're willing to accept this risk, put it in writing, because I'm telling you that it's going to fail, and I'm telling you that these are going to be the consequences. And 9 out of 10 times they don't sign because they're not willing to put their hides on the line. And that was a big lesson for me, is making sure I now, make people really aware of what the consequences of not doing something is.
Yeah.
I know we took a really dive on that one, but it was one of those situations that early in my career that could have broken me.
Yeah. I mean, it has made you more aware now. And also, I mean, you're able to, as you said, to give clients more advice in terms of, hey, don't do this, do that going forward. I've seen this before. So just be aware of this. I know how auditors think, or I know how, particular people think. So just be very careful about that, and that's absolutely amazing. And thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah. It stays with you, right? It's one of those things. It's like you say, that aha moment. For me, it was that moment, it was like, I never want to be in that situation again. Never. We've had a few others, but that was probably one of the biggest ones. Yeah.
But let's talk more about staying calm during, working under pressure when it comes to security incidents, because I feel like a lot of security engineers, or people, not engineers only, let me put it in this sense. A lot of people getting into cybersecurity when they're first starting out. A friend of mine was saying that, I remember when we were starting out, and he was like, I feel, and was literally his words. He was like, dude, I feel like I'm a fraudster. I'm like, what you mean you're a fraudster? I was like, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing here. And I feel like everything is just so overwhelming. I don't understand anything. I just can't. There's too much work, too much things going on. But what advice would you give to people who are overwhelmed, working under pressure, especially when there's security incidents or through auditing and all that?
And it can get overwhelming, right? I mean, I'm overwhelmed all the time. Absolutely. And this is something I really, really love to stress to people, is that we all look like ducks. We are all very calm above the surface, but underneath we're all pedaling away and we're all going at high speed, but you don't really see it. And the thing is, it's not that we're not feeling it. We are. But how do you cope with it is really the big difference. And for me, one of those coping mechanisms that I found has really helped is my circle, is keeping people close to me. I have a lot of friends in security who I phone up. I have people that I can rely on, that I know that will calm me down, that will tell me it's okay. And someone you just sometimes need to run things by, to say, check and balance. Am I doing the right thing here? Because a lot of the time we can run off on a tangent in a direction that might be totally opposite to where we should be going. And sometimes just doing that calibration check and just checking in with someone who's a peer, who's someone you trust, really can put things into perspective. And that's a really important thing to have, is perspective, because a lot of us only gain that after a situation happens, right? Perspective comes later. That's what they say, right? Hindsight is a great thing. But when you don't have the luxury of hindsight in our careers, you've really got to find those people that you can rely on. And my boss is one of them. I often tell him, I said, I phone you to calm me down, not to tell me what to do. So it's great, because sometimes I know exactly what needs to be done, but it's just the situation can get very overwhelming. And you could be that person for your friend, for example. By him telling you that, you would have probably sat back because you're not in the situation. You are calm, and you automatically calm him down because you have the mentality to say, I'm not in the situation, so I can look at it better. It's that sometimes being too close to a problem, we only see the problem. But as soon as you step back, you can see the 5 solutions that surround it. Yeah. So I think for me, it's really surrounding yourself with people you trust, that you can rely on. And that goes for anything in life, not even just security, to be honest, BK. It goes for, when I have problems with anything else, I'll go to my folks or I'll go to my husband. You've just got to surround yourself with people that you trust.
There's a saying which says, tell your story to people who deserve to hear your story. It's a bit similar to that.
Amen. Right?
Welcome. Before I let you go, I just need to find out from you, because there's a lot of people either coming in the technical side of cybersecurity or non-technical. But what are your go-to security tools?
And I had this lesson taught to me, and it's going to be a bit of a story. I always laugh, and I'm going to bring his name up, and he's probably going to kill me because I always say this to him. So Justin Williams is the group CISO for MTN. And he's a friend of mine, and he's someone in my trusted circle, by the way, that calms me down. But I always tell Just, if I ever need to be knocked down a peg because I think I know what I'm doing, he'll be that person to tell me in a very diplomatic way without offending me in the situation. And he's also an unofficial mentor of mine. He just doesn't know it. Don't tell him, by the way. But, it's in the case of I've been involved in many situations where you sit back and you think, what do I do? How do I do this? And you always want to spend a ton of money, or you think to yourself that those tools, funny enough, the free tools can do sometimes the best jobs without even knowing. And I mean, I have not just told people within my team or within the IT team, but also people around in my family and my friends, but in our company as well. I've had masterclasses, and I've showed people how to work VirusTotal, for example. Because if you can't get hold of me and you see an email that looks suspicious, or you get one that's on your Gmail or anything like that, there's a free tool that will tell you, and I think that's something that I can't stress enough, is there are so many free tools that you can use, that you can get proficient on. And what about, try Hack Me, Hack the Box, all of those things. You can start off on the free side. There's so much I've learned, okay, to be honest, from those tools. And then my ever favorite, which is not new to anybody, is YouTube. Like, YouTube the shit out of things, man.
It has everything. How to.
There's a how-to literally for every single thing on YouTube, right? I mean, there's not one thing in this world that you have encountered that someone else hasn't. I can almost guarantee that, unless you're the exact first person to deal with it, that's different. I have literally gone on and researched and Googled and AI'd, stuff to literally go and look for free tools. And I'm not saying I don't have tools that I've bought, but a lot of the time going back to the basics is really something people forget. And if you want to learn, if you want to upskill yourself, if you want to do things on your time and for free, because I'm Indian, I love free things, which I think most people do. They just don't admit they love free things. Is use the free tools that are available to you. I mean, if you walk into an interview and you mention VirusTotal as a tool that you've used personally, or and you're an intern, or you're someone who's trying to get into security, I guarantee you're going to impress somebody. Have I been pawned, for example? So, and I have to thank Justin for putting me into that space, because he even said to me one day, because I remember the story goes, is how is everyone, we were in a conference kind of setting, and how is everybody doing threat intelligence? And all the guys were talking about what they're doing for threat intelligence. And then they came to me and I said, well, I don't have your budget. I can't afford threat intelligence. And he took me aside and he says, but why don't you do this? And all the things he told me was free. And he was right. And since then, my attitude has changed towards things. And I realized that I don't need money to accomplish everything.
Absolutely love it. So before I let you go, what last words of motivation or words that you would like to leave our audience with in terms of, whatever you have in your heart and mind as well? and advice that you would give to them? Somebody's watching right there is like, Nadia, thank you so much for just sharing your nuggets and sharing your knowledge and experience, and also sharing your story as well. Thank you so much. And I'm quite inspired by you. Those people watching right there and saying that.
Bless you, BK, because, it's tough being someone that people look up to, but you know that it was a hard road to get there. And the one thing I can say is perseverance, right? Is there's never going to be a straight line to any journey. It is a windy road. It's going to take you on U-turns. You're going to end up back in the same bad place you were a few times. It's going to take you round and round. It's going to be this roller coaster that you've never experienced before. And all I can say is that every time you think you've hit the bottom and you're not going anywhere, the only way you can go is up. So perseverance is to just push through. And this is not just in your career, it's in your life. It's everything, right? Things may feel like it's at its worst. You sometimes just have to look for that little glimmer of hope, that thing that you say that you're thankful for that day or for that. And I've had conversations with you guys as well, is you cannot bite or eat an entire elephant in one go. I don't know why that's a saying, by the way. I think I must change that saying, right? But you can't look at a problem and say, I'm going to tackle this whole big thing, because that problem is massive. You've really got to say, what can I do now to just chunk away with it? What is my quick wins? What is the easiest things I can do? What are the little things that I can do and accomplish to get me to that big picture? And if you're talking about a cybersecurity career, what can I learn about today? What don't I know today that I can learn about tomorrow? And I can be better armed, because none of us know everything. I sat in meetings at a CISO level where a word or an acronym gets said to me and I'm like, what the hell is that? And I go and I research it, because nobody knows everything. So yeah, it's just perseverance, pushing when hope is gone, and just pushing and pushing and pushing until you get there. And then you're going to get there and you're going to still want more. So just keep going.